call the meeting to order, and you know you're going to be on, right, Jason? Mm-hmm. May we have the Pledge of Allegiance, and would you lead us?
Sure.
Great, thank you.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Turned it a little bit. I don't want you to sit down. Yeah. Good evening, Sue. May we have the roll call?
Councilmember Cruz?
Here.
Vice Mayor Walter?
Here.
Councilmember Turner?
Here.
Councilmember Brigham?
Here.
Mayor Begbie?
Present. And I don't believe we had a closed session. If we had one, I missed it. Well, then we're going to move right on to conflict of interest declarations. Do I hear any or see any? I'm seeing none.
I am going to step down from the tiny house, the accessory dwelling unit.
ADU, okay. Portion, all right. And agenda review.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I understand that Councilmember Turner may have to excuse himself a little early due to personal matters. Staff is recommending that the council consider item number 10, which is the urgency ordinance, the item that Councilmember Brigham just indicated she'll accuse herself. If the council is so inclined to take that item up as the first item on your agenda, that would enable Councilmember Turner to address his personal matters.
All right. Does that work for you? Anything else that you need moved up? Or?
That works.
Great. Well, then at this time, do you need a motion to or we can just go ahead and straight into item 10? Oh, great. Then would you like to go ahead and recuse yourself? Or?
Yes, I'm recusing myself. I do not own a tiny home, and there is not a tiny home on my property, but it was brought to my attention because I have been so involved in the tiny home movement and in my boisterous support for this that you're going to be voting on, that there were people that felt that I had a conflict of some type. Not quite sure why, but I will step away.
And if I may, Mayor, and just to clarify the conflict or why the council members are accusing herself, she doesn't have a financial interest. It's more of she has been involved in assisting other folks to get a permit or whatnot, so she just felt it was better for the perception issues to just go ahead and recuse herself, but she does not have a financial interest in this matter.
Great. Thank you. Did you have something, Vice Mayor?
Yes, thank you. You know, of course, that's Councilmember Brigham's decision to do what she wants, but quite frankly, I totally disagree with that. She may be an advocate for that segment of our population, but her decisions are being based on facts, not on financial gain. So I truly think we're missing the boat by not having her sit up here on the dais. Thank you.
And Mayor, I would like to say it was like the Vice Mayor mentioned, it was her decision. It wasn't something as far as legal that was pointed out to her or whatnot. It was her doing it just for perception reasons, just because it came to her attention that since she's been involved. But that was a personal decision for perception issues, but not for a financial interest or anything like that.
Okay. Great. You want to take it up with her afterwards, Mr. Vice Mayor? All right. Well, then with that, we'll move on to item 10. Is this Mr. Thompson?
Yeah.
Great.
Mayor, council members, this is an adoption of an urgency ordinance extending the temporary housing standards for an additional year. Just a little background real quick. You may recall after the 2017 wildfires, the council adopted an urgency ordinance which amended the zoning code temporarily to really provide more options for people to find housing in the wake of the fire. Just to briefly talk about what those amendments were, we allowed multifamily housing and service commercial zoning. With a simple permit, someone was allowed to live in an RV or a tiny house on private property permanently, or at least for the duration of the ordinance. Also, we reduced the fees on the ADUs. So the ordinance before you tonight will extend the same provisions for one additional year. Our recommendation is that you do adopt the urgency ordinance. I'd like to also offer that maybe about 6 months into this, we'll come forward with some suggestions on the ordinance and to see if the council is interested in maybe making some of these changes permanent. I know that in the new building code, they are going to be allowing for tiny houses, so maybe that aspect of it will be covered through the new building code adoption, which we're bringing forward at the next meeting. So again, our recommendation is that you adopt the urgency ordinance, extending these provisions for one additional year.
Great, thank you. All right, with that, are there any questions from council right now for staff? Okay, with that, I will go ahead and open it up to the public. Would anyone like to come forward at this time and comment on this item? All right, well, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council for any deliberation. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Mr. Vice Mayor?
Just a comment, Madam Mayor. You know, I wholeheartedly support this extension for 12 months. The simple fact that in Santa Rosa right now, folks are being evicted because their insurance is running out. It's been over 24 months. While we may not have any in Cloverdale now, this week or today, looking for temporary lodging, I'd like to keep it open for at least another 12 months so that in case they do come up this way, we can accommodate them. And that's about it. Thank you.
I totally agree with Vice Mayor Walter.
Yeah, that's A-okay with me.
Great, right. Not to keep you very long, but just to let folks know out there, I think that the revisiting it in the 6 months is a great time for us to be looking at it. I wholly support reapproving this for another year. When Councilmember Cruz and I were at the League of Cities annual conference, it was one of the main topics of conversation was housing, as well as really examining how the new housing laws are going to affect what we do and when we do it. And fortunately, I believe we're going to be having a housing advocate coming and giving us a briefing. I also saw in my email that Myers-Nave is doing a briefing on the changes in housing law, so we're really going to have to get up to speed on that and make really good decisions going forward. So as far as people moving here, Gus, I think you're absolutely right. And we already know that they're here. In fact, at Portofino Creek this summer, I met a gentleman who moved here from Paradise, who lost everything and moved to Cloverdale from Paradise. So we know that we're getting folks, that there's a lot of movement, and we need to be prepared. So I would support moving this forward. If someone would like to recommend it.
I move that this is accepted.
And is there a second?
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
All right.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Walter?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner?
Aye.
Councilmember Brigham? And Mayor Begg?
Councilmember Brigham has recused herself, and
Oh,
my vote is yes. And Councilmember Turner, would you do double duty of going and getting a council member and taking your leave?
And you guys will all see pictures as soon as it happens.
And best of luck to you. Great. All right. So at this time, we're going to move on to public comments from the public on items that are not on this evening's agenda. Any person wishing to speak to the City Council on any item not listed on the agenda may do so at this time. Members of the public have the right to speak on any items on the council agenda during that item. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council is not allowed to consider issues or take action on any item not listed on the agenda. Each person wishing to speak must go to the podium when advised by the mayor and speak directly into the microphone. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes unless additional time is authorized. Would anyone like to come forward and speak on an item that is not on this evening's agenda, knowing that there isn't a whole lot else going on in the community? All right, seeing none, we are going to move on to proclamations and presentations. And I believe we have Ms. Lukash with us here again. Leslie, do you want to come on down?
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Leslie Lukash, the Executive Director for Zero Waste Sonoma. The reason she's here tonight is to provide a presentation on an ordinance that would prohibit the use and sale of disposable food serviceware and other products that contain polystyrene foam. Just a little bit of background on this. The City of Cloverdale is a member of the Sonoma County Waste Management Agency, now referred to as Zero Waste Sonoma. which operates under a Joint Powers Authority, or JPA. The mission of the agency is to divert waste from the landfill, through reduction, source reduction, reuse of materials, as well as through recycling. We do have a council member that represents the city on that board. That current board member is Councilmember Cruz. And it was at the direction of the board of directors of the agency that staff prepared a model polystyrene waste reduction ordinance with the intent of addressing the waste concerns related to polystyrene, because it's a non-recyclable material and it has other environmental impacts. So tonight, Leslie is going to kind of give you an overview on the model ordinance. We'll talk about what other cities are doing in terms of its consideration, where it stands. Ultimately, I think the goal is, based on council's feedback tonight, would be to bring back and introduce formally an ordinance if you so support. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Leslie, and if I can ask Sue to hand Leslie the pointer there, that'll enable Leslie to move through her slide presentation.
Great, thank you for the introduction. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. I'm happy to introduce the disposable food silverware and polystyrene foam ordinance. So, can you see that screen?
Interesting.
Let's see.
We've got it up here on our iPads, but I don't know if the audience can.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah, so last time I was here, Cloverdale was discussing the zero waste goal, and so the polystyrene disposable foodware ordinance is in support of that. It's also in support of California's 75% diversion goals by 2020. And with that, it also supports just other initiatives. Let's see. There's many alternatives on the market now for disposable foodware and polystyrene. Materials that are truly recyclable and compostable. And as we know, this further protects the health of our environment, health of people. And so, with that, and the wildlife and the waterways. We have the Russian River watershed, and when plastics get out into the environment, they photodegrade into smaller and smaller pieces, ending up eventually into our ocean, which I know many of you have heard about, the Pacific Gyre. So all this polystyrene disposable foodware ordinance is addressing those things. We did a lot of outreach before preparing the model ordinance. We had 3,000 people respond to our online survey. 91% of the people who responded did support a polystyrene ban, and 89% supported the not selling polystyrene food serviceware. 87% supported straws upon request, and actually 69% supported a fee established to these single-use products. Over 120 jurisdictions throughout California have passed similar ordinances, and in March of actually 2018, Sebastopol passed the model ordinance, and I just gave the presentation to Petaluma this week. Petaluma approved a altered version, but the council was was not happy with staff that they changed the model ordinance, and they asked staff to go back, and before the first of the year, they want to see the entire model ordinance, and they don't want it separated, and that was unanimous between the entire council. So that was nice to see. So what is the disposable foodware ordinance? If you haven't had a chance to read it, it prohibits the sale and use of polystyrene foam, otherwise known as styrofoam, at restaurants and food establishments. And it also prohibits the sale of foam products for foodware at retail stores. And in place of polystyrene, restaurants and food establishments are supposed to use truly recyclable and compostable products that are available that work with our current collection systems. And it does require that food establishments provide straws, lids, cutlery, and condiments that they ask first before they just assume somebody wants those products. There is a voluntary takeout fee, so you can either give your customers a 25 cents incentive to bring a to-go takeout item. So if they, they have leftover food and they bring their own. Now there is state law that protects restaurants from doing this. And then it also encourages a fee if somebody wants to use a single-use item to go, but that's totally voluntary to the food establishment. So who has to comply with this? It includes food and beverage, special events promoters, actually the jurisdiction itself can't use polystyrene, and then retailers. So it does affect retailers in terms of the igloos, these coolers. We will be banning the sale of the polystyrene type, and in its place using the type that is compostable. And there's 3 phases to the outreach of this ordinance, and this is the first phase, introducing it to the council. And we've actually developed an education and outreach campaign, which I'll review next. We've already defined what's recyclable and truly compostable in our current system, and then conduct stakeholder as advised by the council. My hope is that all of the jurisdictions will pass this polystyrene ordinance by the first of the year, because it'll just make outreach and education a lot easier if we can do it as an agency all at the same time. So we do have our new website up. All this information is available to the public. This is just a glance at our first page of the website. We decided to do a best, great, and going away campaign. So best we know is reusable, and we define what reusable means. Great is using something that's recyclable. So that includes, aluminum and single-use plastics. This is not a single-use plastics ban, although we are seeing more of those happening throughout the state. But we encourage food establishments to use plastics made of number 1 and number 2 plastic, just because those have higher markets to sell on the back end. And then we also did the research of what is truly compostable in our system. And if you see, I believe the city manager gave each of you the education material, so it's consistent with what we see. So we also spend some time describing what reusables are. Our goal is to work with restaurants and trying to identify ways to not produce even recycling or composting in the first place. And we do know that over time, when restaurants or food establishments implement reuse items, they actually save money over time. There are many fiber-based products that are accepted in our composting stream. I think there's a lot of miscommunication out there. I certainly see plastic that's called compostable, and then also paper products that have the PLA resin lining. Those are not accepted in our compost system, but we can find basically alternatives for just about everything now that are fiber-based. So we have an education campaign around that. And then the recyclable products in place of polystyrene, as I mentioned. And then the other thing we did is, if a food establishment wants to know where to go to buy these products, we actually did all the research for them, and so that's the second attachment that was sent to you. But it's really nice because we we worked with the hauler as well as the compost facility, as well as some of the distributors, so that we could list all the distributors, and it'll show you right there, which distributors have the products that are acceptable in our current recycling and composting system. The second phase would be the education phase. If we can get the jurisdictions to pass this before January 1st, we will give a 1-year grace period for food establishments, so that if they have polystyrene, that'll give them a chance to use it and get rid of it, and so that they have time in place. And then we will provide technical assistance. We will provide all the education for your establishments. Our agency will take that on. And the third and final phase is 1 year later, January 1st, 2021, is the enforcement phase, where we will make sure that food establishments are in compliance with the ordinance. And this is a report-based compliance. So on our website, we'll have a place where a resident can just say, oh, so-and-so establishment is still using polystyrene. Can you follow up, we'll do the follow-up, we'll do the technical assistance, we will do letters, for violation and have a 3-letter system. But I've worked in other jurisdictions that do these types of mandatory ordinances, and I can tell you, I've never really gotten to the point of fines. Most establishments with enough technical assistance eventually will comply with the regulation. And so we will take care of all 3 phases. The one thing we cannot do is we can't do the enforcement in terms of the fine. That would be up to the city to figure out how you would want to incorporate that fine into, if there was a business that truly just didn't want to participate, the city has that ability to do that. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions or report on the other cities or any information that you might want to know.
I'll start this side. Do you have any questions for Leslie before we take it to the public, or?
I know.
No, okay. Any questions?
Yes, I do.
Why don't we start with you, Marta?
Yes.
While your voice lasts, yeah.
Yeah, well, my voice lasts. Leslie, are you working with the different chambers of commerce throughout the county to inform the businesses?
Some. It just depends on the direction of the council. So in Cotati, yes, I have a meeting actually on Friday with the Chamber of Commerce to review the legislation. I have other cities who are choosing just to do a first hearing and then a second hearing and are using this forum as the education and public outreach. So it's per the direction of the council, and I'm happy to meet with chambers, and actually the city manager and I have discussed that, and that I know is our plan, is to reach out to the chambers so businesses are aware that this is coming.
And is it possible for you to answer what is the time period for businesses to come up with the savings once they start with this initiative?
It depends on the product, but the example I gave on the screen was 20 times. After a reuse of 20 times, the business will start to see a benefit. We are looking at a pilot campaign called Rethink Disposables. It's actually through the Water Fund. And Rethink Disposables has a whole program where they go into restaurants and convert them from single-use to bulk and reusables. And they save businesses through this program anywhere from $1,500 to $5,000 a year. So we're going to pilot that with the first city that passed the ordinance, Sebastopol, and I want to get 10 businesses so that we can get a good baseline, because I think that's the next step after this ordinance, is really trying to work with businesses to not produce materials in the first place.
And then you said that there will be 3 warning letters. Is that going to come from you or from the city?
That will come from us. We will take care of all 3 phases up into the fine.
And that is once someone reports it or the city reports it?
It could be both.
And then that time frequency among those 3 letters would be like a
We're-
month and a week? Those are details.
Yeah, those are the details, and yes, we would give the business time. And with the first letter, we would do a follow-up site visit, which we call technical assistance. And so we envision working with the business. Truly, the last thing we want to do is a fine. We want to help the business and support them and not get to that point.
Yes, I'm very concerned about, given the state of affairs at this point, that our businesses are losing so much because of the power shutouts and so on. I want to make sure that people do have time to be educated, that the campaign is thorough, and that it doesn't limit itself to just the businesses that are members of the chamber, because not all businesses are part of the Chamber of Commerce.
And the ordinance does have an exemption, so if it is a hardship for a business, we have a process for a business to complete an exemption form. And, again, we'll request that if it's a hardship, we want to work with the businesses, not hurt them.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Leslie, thank you for the presentation. Very enlightening, and I support this program 100%. Do you have any type of a buyback program going with the restaurants? Will you buy back their styrofoam containers or swap them for the paper containers?
We gave a year so that they could use their their styrofoam up. So we think that that's adequate time, that they maybe just have a year's supply.
And how about with the Board of Health? Do you do anything with the Board of Health pertaining to restaurants? Use them as maybe a conduit where you can go with them out on their inspections and talk to the restaurant owners? Are they involved in any way?
I don't think the Board of Health wants to take this ordinance on. They are aware of it, and then we are communicating with them with that reuse portion for the pilot. But other than that, no, it falls on our shoulders to do the outreach.
And then lastly, how many cities have you done so far? I mean, you'd like us to adopt this resolution by the end of December, and here we are coming up on November the 1st. We're down 2 meetings, one in November and one in December. It seems a little late coming to Cloverdale. Have you done all the other cities yet?
The only ones we haven't communicated with is Sonoma County, Santa Rosa, and Sonoma, but they all have plans after the first of the year. So they had other things they were working on, but all the rest of the cities we've presented in front of.
Yeah, just from a staff standpoint, and I don't mean to speak for them, I'm hoping we can meet that deadline. And then lastly, just a little personal story. I was at a restaurant, and I've been trying to think where it's been or where it was, but across the room was a young lady with a group of people, and she reached in her pocketbook and took out her own silverware. And I'm one that I always look at the silverware when I go in a restaurant, and I keep threatening my wife that I'm going to bring my own from home. And she keeps laughing, and I made sure she saw that young lady, because I'm really thinking of doing that. And I like that set that you have on page 17. So I'm going to go to Katati and see if we can't buy 1 or 2 of those.
Actually, those are from our agency. I have one set of silverware in my purse, and I will give each of the council a fork, knife, and spoon in a neoprene zipper. So next
that'd
time
be
I come
great.
before council, I'll make sure to bring each of you one.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, I want to make sure that everybody knows that Leslie took the initiative to come to Cloverdale about 2 months ago, and she visited some of the establishments with me because in the education campaign, it's very important that it is clear, and I show her the different signage in different establishments, and she kind of understands somewhat of what we're all struggling with in Cloverdale too. So she just presented to us, but she has been present in Cloverdale for a couple months now. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'll also report to the council, I am actively working with Cal Recycle and a certified redemption collection program, and we are working hard to bring CRV collection, or the bottle bill, here in Cloverdale. I actually have a meeting with Cal Recycle and the recycler tomorrow. We're meeting in Sacramento to figure out how we can bring CRV collection to Cloverdale.
And I should say that our mayor always made a point to rub it in that she brought her own napkin and reusable utensils
Yeah,
to
I already
Friday
have-
Night Live.
I already have my set, yeah. Actually, I live tweeted my cutlery, my own cutlery. So no, going back to silverware, in medieval times, people used to travel with their own silverware. It's only recently that you're expected to have it put on the table for you, so in recent human history. So, and then I was also going to point out on page 19 on the fiber compostable is great. So that square kind of plate bowl, they had those at the League of Cities conference, but at one of our lunches. But the massive fail was that then we had to put them in the trash because they didn't have composting. I know. I was like, Leslie would be really upset by this. And then so that was the conference center. And then in the hotel, they had paper straws at the coffee service, and I complimented the guy who was the attendant there, and I said, but the next step is compost, and he said, we're working on it, but we also have a hotel garden, and we're trying to compost there. So even the Hyatt Regency is trying to adopt some of these practices. So I thought, yeah, so they're halfway there. They just need you, so or someone like you. So at this point, I want to open it up to the public for anyone to come forward and make any comments. And don't go very far, Leslie. So would anyone like to come forward and comment on this item?
If no one wants to, I do have a comment.
Oh, I'm
afterward.
sorry. Okay.
No, I mean, when they're done.
Okay. Well, it sounds like everyone's had a chance, so we'll bring it back to council for deliberation, and would you like to lead us off?
About 15 years ago, we had a restaurant group, and I was running a restaurant and brewery then, and we all met and decided to do away with the styrofoam. And most of the restaurants in town did adapt. I know at the pub, we used strictly biodegradable, no styrofoam. And it was very successful when we went at it in that way. We always used to meet once a month and talk about agency issues. And I think that would be, when you're looking at it from a profitable standpoint, compostable as opposed to styrofoam costs that restaurateur between 8 and 15 to 16 cents a piece more per package. And in some cases, more than that, up to 25% more. So that's the thing we're going to have to kind of work with. And I think suppliers, some of the suppliers, so mark down those styrofoam containers and raise the price on the biodegradable ones to the point where a lot of restaurants, especially the quick food restaurants that do like 50, 60, 70 at lunch, that's going to be the issue for them because restaurants, quite honestly, have one of the thinnest profit margins on earth. And for them to lose that 25 cent per sale doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. So I think we're going to have to be careful with the education issue. And if the local restaurants maybe would like to get together and form a group like we used to have, because it was very effective, and we did kind of lobby Cash and Carry and Costco, not Costco, a couple of Cisco, and they did accommodate and come down in price slightly for the biodegradable when we all said that we wouldn't buy from them anymore. So I think that's one avenue that might be worth. It's just so much less painful than somebody just standing up and saying, screw you, you're going to do this. So I would suggest that.
Well, this has the optional, that restaurant can charge an extra 25 cents if they choose to for the takeout.
Right, nobody wants to do that. No restaurant wants to charge an extra 25 cents because then they're going to get kickback from the clients.
Well,
So they
actually, the
absorb
Mexican
that.
restaurant already does. They already
I'm
charge
aware
extra
of
for
that.
bags, yeah.
And so it just depends on how the education goes. So I think we just have to be really careful because we've lost so many restaurants. They come and go so quickly. I don't want to push them over the edge or think that we're not sensitive to their needs.
Anybody else?
No. It's just, emphasis on education and outreach to all businesses that will be impacted by this ordinance. And, I'm very much interested in working with you here in Cloverdale, as I'm sure other council members are.
And I'm glad that we're finally going to get a recycling option here in Cloverdale. Thank you for that.
Are you good with it? Okay.
Mayor, Council, if I may,
Certainly.
just to outline a couple of options for your consideration, kind of following on Councilmember Cruz's comment. So there's one option is to direct staff to bring back introduction of an ordinance at your next meeting, which is scheduled for, assuming there's no more public safety power shutoffs.
We'll just bring candles, yeah.
Wednesday, November 13th, we want to coordinate with our city attorney relative to any noticing requirements for the introduction of the ordinance and whether it has to be a public hearing. And then obviously bring it back the following meeting if council agrees with that introduction, which would provide for adoption of the ordinance by the December 31st recommendation by Leslie. Otherwise, a second option would be to conduct some additional outreach, prior to its introduction, work with the chamber to get kind of the word out, which would then, just take a little bit more time, I think, to do that outreach. But, between now and then, if council's direction is to pursue adoption before the end of the year, we could certainly coordinate with the chamber director and see if we can't get these materials out that Zero Waste Sonoma has provided. And I want to kind of acknowledge the staff being proactive, not only proposing an ordinance, but actually doing the research that will benefit companies and restaurants, because and mailing companies that may be looking for alternative products to meet the requirements of the ordinance, kind of queuing that up so that they don't have to do all that research themselves. But I just wanted to outline that that's an option for council. If you want us to do that outreach, it may take a little bit, a little bit more time to do that in advance of introduction of the ordinance, or otherwise do that between now and introduction, bring it forward. And that gives us a little over a month and a half between now and when we would be bringing it forward for, bringing forward an ordinance, actually for adoption and second reading and adoption.
Leslie,
I
could,
ask-
oh, sorry.
Why the deadline?
We were hoping to do education throughout the entire county at the same time. If you want more time, that's fine. We'll work with that. But that was the original thinking. It's just that when this is the soft launch right now, you're seeing all the education material. But starting January 1st, we're doing a hard education campaign to the businesses. And it's just easier if the majority of the jurisdictions are following that same timeline, but it's not necessary.
Well, I would think that education should probably definitely come first. The public never likes ordinances shoved down their throat without any kind of education behind it. So I would rather see the education component done before the ordinance is enacted.
But they have a year before it will be enforced.
Yeah, that's.
No, I get that.
This is
I-
really an educational
This is-
launch,
it
and
is-
then the
yes,
ordinance.
And I like that.
But that's what, that's what this is, though. That's why, so we'll have a year of education, and then it would go into force
Yeah,
after
but we're
a
going to
year.
pass this ordinance without much input. I would like to be able to get more input from the public, from the restaurants, before we make a decision up here. There's not one person sitting up here that actually owns a restaurant or is going to feel this impact. So I just want to, if nothing else, appear like we're conscientious about it.
Okay.
And I,
Actually, I actually want to give Gus a turn. He hasn't had to speak yet, so.
and I have to agree with Councilmember Brigham. I think the program is great. I'm going to support it 100%. But again, it's always about the perception. I'd like to see those restaurant owners have the opportunity to come forward and weigh in on the ordinance. And that's one of the reasons, Leslie, why I asked you if there was a buyback program. If you went into a restaurant and said, count up your styrofoam leftover containers, we're going to replace them with these cardboard ones, rather than giving out the trinkets and the feel-good novelties that you're giving away, maybe some money can be directed back to buying back some of those containers that they have now. Otherwise, I think we need to solicit their input.
But they have a year, though, to use their stock, so.
Okay, well, that's fine, but I still think if I was a restaurant owner, here's the city, doing an ordinance, and yeah, I have a year to comply, but they didn't even consult with me.
That's
What about
that's my
opinion?
point.
So that's my feeling on it.
But you were up here meeting with the other with restaurants.
Yeah, I mean, our
already.
plan next is to go to the chamber and then work directly, through
Yeah.
the chamber with the businesses. We're on the same page. We want to educate the businesses as well.
Okay. I guess instead of a separate restaurant group I'd like to see this go through the chamber because,
There's a lot of restaurants that aren't in the chamber.
Right, that's why I'm.
But they do a lot of direct outreach, even, you don't have to be a chamber member to get information from them. I mean, they're
And-
pretty,
and then-
because they're a contractor of the city of Cloverdale, that's just not required. You don't have, you don't get services for the chamber if you're only a member. They're also, our contractors, so they do outreach on our behalf.
I think what staff can offer in working and coordinating and collaborating with Leslie and Zero Waste Sonoma staff would be we could pretty quickly prepare a cover letter and provide a copy of the ordinance and the materials to all the restaurants that wherever in business enterprises within Cloverdale. There's not a tremendous large number of them, and provide them the opportunity for review and comment. We could probably do that and indicate that we would propose to introduce the ordinance at the first meeting in November. So between now and then, that would give them the time to
Not much.
Okay,
Yeah, but
comment.
we would be introducing the ordinance and then we getting feedback and then having, and then continuing it if we need to have, but we may be surprised, they may come and say, well, we're already doing 80% of that.
I think a lot of them are, but I think we also have to include all the service organizations in town and get feedback from them because they're a big user of those kinds of, especially, all of us, Arts Alliance, us here at the Performing Arts Center, we all do events. And I think that all of those people need to be reached out to too.
And Friday Night Live is one of the,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
Friday Night was one of the biggest ones, yeah.
Yeah, but I was also just for discussion, what kinds of feedback do you think, additional feedback we're going to get from businesses? We know they're going to talk about cost, they're going to talk about timelines.
And it'll make them feel better to know that we've listened.
Yeah, so I think it's a good idea to go ahead and submit like a proposal of the ordinance to them, even though it might sound like a little bit of time, but if we need to extend it, then we'll extend it, but I think it's a good initiative to do so now.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, Leslie, can you remind us how much longer we have on our current landfill until it's full?
23 years.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of time,
I'm aware.
so.
And I'm behind this
Yeah.
whole ordinance. I think it's a great idea. But I think rather than using a sledgehammer, we should just be conscientious about education.
I just
Outreach.
can't agree with that characterization. I think that she's offering to do outreach, work with the chamber. She's already been here. If we do pass it, and then it would actually go into effect after a year, we would have multiple readings of it. I just don't see how this is a sledgehammer.
May I ask one more thing? Is Recology also helping in the outreach?
They will help, but as far as right now, we did the outreach material in collaboration with Recology because we wanted to make sure we were putting out all the right products that work with their recycling and their composting systems. So actually, yeah, I'm sure if they go to businesses, we do collaborate, so they would help us if we needed it. But it does fall on us to lead and do the education.
Okay, thank you.
And then one more question. Do you have any plans to work with Russian River Watershed Association on co-marketing as well?
That's a great idea.
Okay. I look forward to that. And then I have one more question for you. I don't know if it's appropriate. I received a letter, and it's within Leslie's expertise. I received a letter from a constituent regarding Recycle Town at the dump, and it's her expertise. Would it be appropriate to bring it up at this time? And
I think it is related to the topic of that we're talking about because all this stuff ends up as well.
all of this stuff would potentially end up in the landfill. So this is something that you brought to our attention at Russian River Watershed Association. It was a decision that the Board of Supervisors made. And I received a letter from a constituent regarding Recycle Town closure. And so instead of you having to correct me with getting the details wrong, why don't you explain what the issue is and what's transpired regarding Recycle Town?
Last month at the Board of Supervisors meeting, Republic Services, who is the contracted operator of the landfill and the transfer stations, explained that there is concern with stormwater violations. There are no stormwater violations. It's just a concern that at the Healdsburg transfer station, there is a reuse center, and Central Recycle Town is another reuse center. And they expressed concern that potentially there could be stormwater violation. I don't believe the LEA sees that right now, but the Board of Supervisors approved their presentation, which one slide included these closures. And I've heard Healdsburg's closing very soon, if not like this week or next week. And it's just unfortunate because those reuse centers are used both for donations. They're ideally situated because people go to the transfer stations at Healdsburg and Central, drop off, whatever they don't want to the reuse centers, and then people can buy these things for cheaper. I know the hard thing, especially with compost, once you close a facility, it's really hard to bring it back. So those are two reuse centers that the county is losing.
That's a shame.
It's a shame, but for me, yes.
They should have solicited input first.
It was pretty unilateral and summarily done. So actually what I was going to ask the council, and I can bring this up later, I just wanted to make sure that we let, because I'm sure you're going to want to go after this presentation, I'm going to bring it up again during correspondence, and I'm going to ask the council if they'll support taking action on this. But there's also something that the Zero Waste Board can do to address this. So I think you have my support, at least I can only speak for myself, so.
Great, good idea, I'll bring it.
Do you have
I'll
anything
inform our
else?
board.
Okay, great. So at this time, do you have a recommendation, or?
Well,
We're not-
I wanted to see where we are on the table. Are we going to solicit the input from the restaurants, the gas stations, the quick stops, the raised supermarkets? Are we going to solicit their input and then go forward with the ordinance? How are we going to handle this? That's my preference, but how are we going to handle it?
Well, I'm happy with the rate that Leslie is suggesting, but if we want to slow walk it even more, I think it's actually, the approach is very professional. The timeline is ample. It's ample enough for us to get input from the public and implement it and then have the rule. But if if other council members feel like, we just want to slow walk it a little more, I have no problem doing that. We can instruct staff to do that. How do you feel about it?
I want to get some input first. And I'm not saying that we have to slow walk it very much at all, but I just do think that we should let the citizens know what we're planning on doing.
Okay.
Mayor and council, the next council meeting in November is shaping up to be conducted as a joint workshop with the city council. So, with the school, with the school board. So, it may be a very busy agenda as it is. If we were to slide one council member meeting to introduce the ordinance at your first meeting in December, we could still bring back the ordinance for adoption at your first meeting in January. Wouldn't meet the exact December 31st timeline, but you would be in position to adopt it, fairly shortly thereafter. It would give us a little more time to conduct some more, outreach with the business community in the chamber and directly with our business community.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it doesn't lag too far behind, because we want to take advantage of that marketing push
Right.
and that initial bump and get on board as quickly as possible. So, is that timing? Does that work for you?
Sure.
December. Okay, December then, yeah. All right, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And drive home safely, and hopefully all your traffic lights be working. All right, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to student liaison reports. What do you have for us? And grab a microphone. There you go.
All right, so we just had homecoming, and for the first time, we had our legal parade, and that was pretty exciting. Unfortunately, the varsity football team lost, but the JV won, so there's balance there. Senior night was last night for the soccer teams. Both girls and boys won, and if you don't know what senior night is, it's the last homecoming game for that sport. And then they dedicate to the seniors. And today there was a field trip to the JC, the junior college, and basically counselors are ensuring that everyone who is applying for the JC in the spring is already enrolled in the JC. And the library will be holding a financial aid workshop Saturday at 2 p.m. that is pretty widespread throughout the school. And ASB is beginning to plan for winter formal. And Dia de los Muertos and Halloween, we have no plans yet, but my plan is to propose decorating the hallways for those days.
Oh, great, thank you.
And that's it.
Thank you. And if
May
you
I
need
ask
to,
something?
you're not home free yet, sorry.
Yeah. I think I saw a picture of Ashton with the Alexander Valley Film Festival.
Oh, yes, that did
Please.
happen as well. The Alexander Valley Film Festival was this weekend. I'm not sure how many people actually volunteered, but there should be a field trip to see one of those films, hopefully, coming up.
Yes, and I hope that you participate in the binational health fair that is also going to be celebrating Dia de los Muertos on November 3rd.
So spread the word. Great. Any other questions for our student liaison? Okay, great. Well, if you want to stay and participate in the discussion, you're welcome to. If you have homework, no worries.
I think I'm good, I'll stay here.
Great. All right, then we are going to move on to the consent calendar. All items under consent calendar will be considered together by one action of the council unless any council member or member of the public requests that an item be removed and considered separately. Would any members of the council like to see an item removed?
Nope.
All right. Would members of the public like to come forward and see an item removed? All right, seeing none, we will
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move that we approve the consent calendar as submitted, please.
second.
Second.
All right.
Councilmember Cruz?
Aye.
Councilmember Brigham?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Walter?
Aye.
Mayor Bagby?
Aye. And communications?
Mayor, Council, there was correspondence received after the agenda packet was prepared and distributed. There's a communication that was provided on the dais from Greg Bullarecci, dated Wednesday, October 23rd, and this is in regards to the Recycle Town closure that was just referenced in the previous presentation, expressing concern and disapproval of the decision to close Recycle Town, which is located at the transfer station in Healdsburg. And I know it's a source of materials that can be used for a number of projects, and it kind of addresses the tenet of reuse, which actually comes before recycle, and it's something that helps keep materials out of the landfill. And I think what you see in the letter is concerned that this will no longer be available. So it is correspondence received. So if council wants to provide direction in response to this correspondence, you can do so.
Okay. Does anyone have anything to add on this? What I was hoping is that we could write a letter from the city to the Board of Supervisors asking them to reconsider this decision, because I don't think that this had its public or proper public review. Does anyone take an issue with that, or?
No, and mention the fact that we don't have a recycling center at all here in
Exactly,
Cloverdale. It's
exactly.
really annoying that they want us to do all these things, but we don't have the tools to actually accomplish them, so it's just good theater and that's it.
Exactly. Okay. Is everyone on the same page on that?
When is the closing date?
I think it's this week.
I think
Yeah.
day after tomorrow, I
Yeah,
believe.
it happened really fast.
Too fast.
Yeah. So as long as everyone's in agreement, we'll put something together with staff, and we'll send a strongly worded letter, and hopefully more than that will get done. So, okay, thank you. Moving on, I believe we are on, let's see.
Number 11.
Thank you. We're on the next page. We are on item 11, consideration of individual at-will employment agreement.
Mayor, Council, with great delight, I get to bring this item forward for your, hopefully your action this evening. A little bit of background. In June of this year, staff brought forward an amendment to the city's personnel system, which modified and updated the city clerk classification. Gratefully, the council did approve that amendment by resolution number 45-2019. Subsequent to the council's action, the city initiated recruitment for a new city clerk position. This would be the first time that we have an appointed city clerk versus an elected city clerk. That was a result of modification to the municipal code. Human resource staff did prepare an updated job flyer, posted job notices in key locations, including appropriate professional publications, the Press Democrat, as well as the city's website. We received a number of applications. I think we received 13, and of those 13, 3 were either deputy city clerks or city clerks. After an extensive interview process, and then followed by an informal interview process, we did identify a top candidate, and it's with great delight that I'd like to introduce Miss Irene Camacho-Werby. Maybe Irene, if you want to kind of come up. Included in the packet is an employment agreement. The employment agreement was reviewed by our city attorney and provided to Ms. Werby. She has agreed to the terms and conditions of the employment agreement. The terms include that the employment would commence upon, notification to her current employer. Irene is currently the city clerk for the city of Calistoga. The agreement also identifies the base compensation for the position, which is $103,465.70. This is step 4 in the 5-step classification. The other benefits that are included in that employment agreement are those that are standard to your senior managers with the city of Cloverdale, which includes 3 months base salary severance, vacation leave with an accrual of up to 20 days per year, sick leave of 10 hours per each month of service, administrative leave of up to 80 hours, a mobile device stipend of $50 per month, as well as amounts budgeted for professional development and conferences, memberships, and continuing education that are applicable to the city clerk position. That at-will employment is included in the packet and is available for your review. The recommendation tonight is that you adopt the resolution that would approve the at-will agreement and authorize the city manager to execute it. And we would look forward to Ms. Werby providing notice and becoming part of our team here at the city of Cloverdale. I do want to take this opportunity to provide a little bit of personal information about Ms. Werby. Sorry if I embarrassed.
This is where it gets embarrassing.
Right.
I know.
Irene Camacho Werby is a certified municipal clerk. She's also a member of the International Institute of Municipal Clerks, as well as the City Clerks Association of California. She has over 14 years of experience working for local government. She has served as a deputy town clerk for the town of Windsor, and as I mentioned earlier, is the city clerk for the city of Calistoga. In addition to her formal education, she's earned certificates in local government leadership, continuing education for public officials, and as well as technical training for clerks. I know she has experience in municipal elections, which is very important for the role of city clerk, records management, obviously local government statutes, and best practices associated with being a city clerk. Some of her key accomplishments in her 14-year professional history include modernizing digital records, improving government transparency and community outreach, and streamlining agenda preparation process. I can say personally that Ms. Werby has a very positive attitude and has an eye to serving the public, and she's been recognized by other councils and her peers for her customer service and for public service. She's 2 young members of her family that are getting older day by day, but she's a mother of 2, and wife of 1. She enjoys reading, watching Marvel movies, and I also know that she really enjoys visiting Disneyland when the opportunity presents itself. So with that, I'd really like to introduce Ms. Irene Camacho Werby.
Well, welcome. Would you like to say a few words for yourself instead of having David talk for you?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Kelly. So good evening, Mayor and council members. Irene Camacho Werby. I just, wanted to say that I am truly honored to be here before you tonight for the opportunity to be your city clerk. Just adding to a quick background, I am born and raised in Sonoma County with, of course, much of my career as a city clerk and local government in a neighboring city. So I have observed the city council be very supportive of staff, receptive to the community's needs, and of course, strong advocates for continuing to make the city of Cloverdale a better place to live, visit, and work. Therefore, I am very excited to take on this new role, to be able to work with all of you and staff, but most importantly, serve the community of Cloverdale. So thank you again for holding this meeting tonight, for your time, and for your consideration of this item. So thank you very much.
Well, we should all thank PG&E. Yes. Does the council have any questions? Or?
No, welcome aboard.
No, welcome.
Thank you.
We look forward to getting to know you, and I'm sure I can find work on a policy committee at the League of Cities with all of your certificates and experience, so we'll have to talk about that. Great, so thank you, and welcome. Right.
And Mayor, Council, I failed to mention that Ms. Werby's also bilingual, and it's a tremendous benefit to have a bilingual member of our team. We have a number of bilingual staff already, but it's always very helpful, especially for the city clerk function, to have be bilingual. Will assist with outreach and communication to our Latino community.
Thank you. Well, welcome. So what do you need from us? I guess we...
Thank you.
The resolution, Madam
I
Mayor?
believe there is a resolution before us.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to offer that resolution based on City Manager David Kelly's good performance in the past of hiring senior staff. So, David, I know you did a good job this time. City of Cloverdale City Council, resolution of the City Council of the City of Cloverdale approving an ad-will employment agreement with Irene Camacho Werby as Cloverdale City Clerk, and authorize the city manager to exercise the agreement on behalf of the city.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right.
Councilmember Brigham.
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz.
Aye.
Excuse me, Vice Mayor Walter.
Aye.
Mayor Bagby.
Aye. Congratulations. All right. Does anybody need to take a break? Are you doing
I could.
okay? You doing okay? You doing okay?
I'm fine.
It's been a while, so, all right, just want to check in. You doing okay?
I'll let you know.
Okay, good. All right, we'll move on to, it's the walking wounded up here. We're going to move on to item 12, consider appointment of planning commissioners to fill openings and vacancies on the planning commission.
Mayor, council members, this item is a proposed appointment of 3 planning commissioners. Per our city code, the planning commission consists of 5 regular members and 2 alternates to be appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council. Just a little bit of background, the mayor and I did interview 6 candidates, after which it was determined that the 3 candidates before you tonight were the most qualified. We'd like to ask them to come up and maybe introduce themselves, and I think we decided to limit it to like 3 minutes, if you guys could do that. I just introduced, it's Sandra Holverts, and she's being recommended for the 4-year term, which would expire October 9th, 2023. Eric Sanders would be a regular member.
I thought you were calling me, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine, you could stay there. Eric Sanders, who would be taking over for Commissioner Domke's, and that spot expires on June 20th, 2020. And Erica Torgerson, and she would be an alternate member, and her term would expire October 9th, 2021. I said your name wrong, I'm sure. Okay, thank you. So again, we're going to ask them to come up one at a time and just kind of introduce themselves and maybe just express why you're interested in the Planning Commission, and then we can bring it back to the council.
Great. Just a reminder, you'll have 3 minutes, and that's good practice, so.
Okay. I would like to thank Mayor Bagby and the other members of the council for the consideration of City of Cloverdale's Planning Commission. And so why am I here? I would like to be a bridge and a support for the community. And also, I think that there's an importance on how the community grows and develops. And a little bit of history about me. So I worked at a construction company, a family-owned construction company. We did excavation, grading, and paving. And we coordinated projects, bidding, scheduling, dispatching, and obtained necessary permits with the county and the city. So I was the director of operations at the construction company. And then I moved over to the public sector. So I worked in construction for 20 years, and then I moved over to the public sector for 8 years. And I was the agency director for Southwest Transportation Agency, and we do pupil transportation. So what we are is, I don't know if you're familiar with West County, but they're also like a sister JPA to us. And we did pupil transportation for 11 school districts. We had a fleet of 100 school buses, and staff was just slightly under 100. So I oversaw that. I started with the agency as the payroll technician and the accounting assistant. Then I moved over to the director of finance, and then I became agency director for Southwest. And I also served at 4 boards, the Organization of Self-Insured Schools, which is general liability, the Fresno County Self-Insured Groups for Workers' Compensation, the Northern California Regional Liability Excess Fund, and then the California Association of School Business Officials, which is the Central Section Board, and that is a professional council for transportation care. So that's a little bit about my history. Do you have any questions for me?
Do you have any questions?
No.
The candidate? Okay. Did you have some questions?
I read your background, and I think you'll be quite an asset to the Planning Commission, Cloverdale. Thank you.
Yeah, I just really thank you for coming out and wanting to give back to the community. We know you're a new member, but an enthusiastic one, so, yeah.
Yes, I do become passionate. When we were doing transportation, I lobbied for AB 760, which is a COLA bill for transportation, because transportation and the education field does not get a COLA. So we were advocates for that. So when it comes to schools, we're a supporter. I'm a supporter of the education system.
Great.
I'd ask one question. What would make you choose city council over the school district board?
Oh, you mean planning commission?
Or, yeah, planning commission over the school board?
It was proposed to me, and because I worked in construction, I love construction. I love going out to the job site. Oops.
Oop, no, you get extra time. You get extra time because we asked the
Yes.
question.
So between both of them, it's a passion. When I see those construction trucks and I smell that asphalt, I love it. When I see a school bus, I just, I have a passion for yellow.
I guess what the school district is going through right now, a school board member, with their expansions and their problems with building and everything else, and transportation, you would be a perfect fit there.
So at the Southwest Transportation Agency, we had a fueling station. We had LNG, diesel, and gas. We converted liquid natural gas into compressed natural gas. So we did an infrastructure there. And so I'm familiar with that as well.
See, that's what I mean. God, you'd be a shoo in there.
I could apply. I have time, and I really want to get back to the community because this is where I live now.
How long have you lived here?
Well, my husband moved here in 2015, and so I was still under contract. So I was commuting from the Central Valley back and forth. Every weekend, either he would come or I would come. And then finally, my contract had ended, and so I was able to relocate permanently here in Cloverdale. So that was from 2015.
Yeah. No, when we were interviewing and talking, her experience in transportation was really attractive because we need to leverage our transportation dollars and our housing dollars and our development dollars. They all kind of need to work together. So I think Sandy will have a really good insight to some of those issues. So, okay, did you have anything else?
Yeah, I don't know if I can ask this question or not.
You should whisper it to Jose. Yeah.
Am I allowed to ask if you're bilingual? Well, all right, thank you. Thank you, Jose. I'm just curious, are you bilingual?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other questions? I think that's fair game. It's a job interview. So, anything else? Okay, great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And actually, before we have our next contestant, I was wondering if we can move, because thankfully you're wearing heels, if we could move the TV. I know we'll be able to see Eric. That's not a problem. I'm concerned about Erica, though. Eric, you want to come on down and say a few words about yourself?
And his last name? Sandy.
It's on the application, I'm sure, and I'm sure he'll introduce himself. You want to just introduce yourself and explain to other council members why you might look familiar.
Thank you, Mayor Bagby, Mayor of the council, senior staff. My name is Eric Sanders. I'm a longtime resident of Cloverdale. Actually, I'm a multi-generational resident here. I am a current employee of the city of St. Helena at the wastewater treatment plant. My last job was working here in the public works department at the drinking water plant. So a lot of you may be familiar with my face, have seen me around. I'm a close to 20-year veteran in public works. I'm a member of multiple environmental organizations, including the California Water Environment Association, American Water Works Association, as well as the American Public Works Association. I'm also a military veteran. I have close to 20 years experience between my military and public works experience in both drinking water as well as wastewater treatment. I was also the operations manager for the Bodega Bay Public Utility District before I came to the city of Cloverdale. And I don't have a prepared speech here tonight.
That was pretty good.
But, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. But as a multi-generational resident here, my adult children are sixth-generation Cloverdale residents. So my family is very deeply rooted here, and I expect that to continue for many generations to come. And so I have felt a calling to help this community grow in a responsible manner. Environmentally is one of the most important, the environment is one of my most important issues. So I understand that community growth is very important here, and I would like to help make sure that this community grows in a way that is responsible for the environment. So, thank you.
Thank you. Let's see if we have any questions from council. I'll go to my right this time. Mr. Vice Mayor, did you?
Thank you. Eric, are you bilingual as well?
I'm not bilingual, but I would be more than happy to learn to be. Which language would you like me to speak?
No, and I you know, we're trying to fill a bouquet on our planning commission, and you know, it would be nice if we had somebody that was bilingual, that also qualified to maybe communicate with individuals coming in front of the planning commission that are not proficient at English. So that's why I'm asking that question. And when and why did you work for the city of Cloverdale?
I worked here for 4 years.
He doesn't remember you.
A while.
I worked here for 4 years, from 2015, I think, until May of this year.
Why did you leave? Just for the promotion?
Well,
instead of the quality of
to
life?
be honest with you, it was not really so much a matter of the promotion, but going from the drinking water plant to now the wastewater treatment plant, I felt like it was a bigger responsibility to the environment to make sure that the water that we put back to the earth is as clean as the water that we took out.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
And I do have one question, Madam Mayor, for city staff, and Kevin, you can answer this later. I know I asked you this 1,000 times, but I just want to make sure that all commissioners are in good standing with the city.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I know you're in good standing with the city.
Thank you.
I remember you. Well, thank you for applying, and thank you for being concerned about environmentally sound growth. And I have nothing else. Thank you, Eric. It's very commendable to make sure that the place where you've called home for generations continues to be the beautiful place that we have now.
Thank you, Madam Councilmember.
And I'm sorry, I should have explained when I asked that question of member in good standing. What I'm asking staff is, does somebody have an addition built on their house without a permit? You know, is their water bill paid on time? That's the type of information. Yeah. Are they law-abiding citizens? So, okay.
Great. Have you been able to dig up any dirt, Kevin? That's what we're Great.
Feel free to stop by my house. I don't have any additions there at all.
Nothing to hide.
You can ask Ms. Holmes there. I'm pretty sure I pay my water bill on time.
Okay, good.
So,
Did you have any?
Thanks, Eric.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric. And thanks for, going to work at a city and then wanting to come back and do another public meeting once a month. So we appreciate it.
Sure, no problem. This is my town, so I love this town deeply. And just because I go somewhere else to work, I always feel that the city of Cloverdale is the most important to me. Because this is where I live, this is where my kids live, this is where my mom lives. Right.
Great. So, thank you.
Mayor, Council, if I can, just to add a little anecdotal information about your planning commissioner candidate, why he was still an employee for the city, and hopefully at some point in the future, we'll may have another opening and we'll welcome him back. But he did express to me his desire for professional growth, and I remember sharing with him at the time that there's opportunities through the planning commission, and attending city council meetings. So even before he departed for other job opportunities and professional development, I know he had shared with me his personal interest and professional interest in growing his skills and understanding of local government. So I was excited to see that he submitted his application for planning commission.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Okay. Nope. All right, we'll have Erica come on up. And as you can hear, everyone will be able to hear the bell when it goes off at 3 minutes, and I'm trying to figure out how to stop it sooner, so.
Or quiet it down a little.
I'm trying. Here we go.
Well, thank you, and good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Erica Torkerson. I am currently the Director of Customer Service for Sonoma Clean Power. A little bit about me. I moved to Cloverdale back in 2012, shortly after I met my future wife. I have two stepsons, both one who's graduated from Cloverdale High in 2017 and now works for a local construction company in Geyserville. The other is a junior at Cloverdale High and hopes to follow his brother into construction. My wife owns her own law firm that was previously in Cloverdale, but she has since moved it to Santa Rosa, but still does work in Cloverdale quite a bit. I grew up in real estate. My dad was in real estate and was a broker for over 40 years. So that's what we talked about at the dinner table night after night. So I told him there is no way I want to go into real estate. So shortly after college, of course, I ended up in escrow, working at North Bay Title Company, which was a family-owned title company in Santa Rosa. After that, I spent 2 years there and then moved on to First Community Bank, which is a local community bank out of Santa Rosa as well. It's now Poppy Bank, but I spent 9 years there doing a variety of jobs, including commercial underwriting for mostly commercial property and some just businesses. In addition, I was tasked with leading our special assets department during the recession and managed all our foreclosed properties, often taking them through the entitlement process, lot line adjustments, abatement issues, and a variety of odd things that come up when you own property that is vacant, including a lot of homeless issues. For the last 5 years, as I said, I've been the Director of Customer Service at Sonoma Clean Power. While working for a public agency, I've gotten to experience the public process, including working through the Brown Act, dealing with local politicians, and noticing requirements. It is in this job that I found I missed planning and development in real estate, and so that is one of the reasons that I have opted to apply for the Planning Commission. This is actually the second time I applied, and I would hope to get on it this year. I have a deep passion for seeing how Cloverdale grows, and I want to make sure that it grows in a sustainable way that works for everybody and in an equitable way, and not just become the next Healdsburg and price everybody out. In addition, I really believe strongly in infill over sprawl and would like to see Cloverdale work on improving its downtown so residents can work here and live here. Thank you very much, and I hope that I can be a part of Cloverdale even more.
Great, thank you. There, I'm going to cancel the timer, so the third time I finally am going to get this right, and I'll open it up to council questions. Do you want to lead us on?
No.
Right, okay.
I'm fine, thank you.
Oh, I have a couple. Are you bilingual?
I am not.
Okay. We have one planning commissioner now that works for the same agency you do.
Yes.
I have to be right up front with you. I have a problem with that. The lack of, the one thing that I do not want to have out there in our community is the perception of not being transparent. Decisions being made about a property at the water cooler. Whether you work in the same office or not, I just can't get over that stumbling block of having two planning commissioners that work out of the city of Cloverdale for the same agency. I don't care if it was a public entity or private. I just can't get over that lack of transparency that might be perceived by the public. So I do have a problem with that, Madam Mayor.
You have the city. Do you want to go ahead and address that?
If you don't mind.
Sure.
I completely understand your your concern with that. I think because we do work for a public agency and we are subject to the same, a lot of the same rules and regulations a planning committee or city council members are, that we're even more familiar with things like the Brown Act and how important it is to not have those kind of conversations one-off at the water cooler. I work in customer service, and I tell my boss all the time my number one priority is transparency for my customers. I want to make sure that I can explain and show everything that I do. And so while I understand your concern, you could be sure that that will not be happening.
Yeah. And I appreciate that feedback. And I, as being governed by the Brown Act as well, do understand that. But it's Joe Blow, who's sitting at home now watching his TV, that never comes to a city council meeting until something goes sideways that I'm going to have to listen to. So, but thank you.
Could we have the city attorney address that issue? Are there, any issues with having two commissioners who have the same employer?
No, legally, it's not an issue. And I think that was the Vice Mayor mentioned, I think, and the applicant mentioned, it's a Brown Act issue if there were a majority of, let's say, the Planning Commission talking, whether they were working together in the same job or another job, but just because they're in the same agency, that by itself is not a violation, but I think it was more of also a perception issue that the Vice Mayor was commenting, but legally, it's not a problem.
Yeah, and I understand that, but it is the perception issue, and I probably wouldn't even bring it up if you were the only candidate, but it's what the public is thinking about us up here. I mean, Washington has a transparency issue right now, and it's, I don't think any of us are Trumpsters, but by the same token, when they start slinging mud at government, we're all Trumpsters, and I just can't support this. So, but thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to address the issue of transparency because I also underwent the same questions when I was running for council, given that my husband works for the city. But to this day, we have proven transparency, and I will continue to uphold us to keep business out of the house and to always follow the interests of the people of Cloverdale. So I would expect the same from you and the colleague. And as long as that is the way that it works, I will be happy with your appointment.
Thank you.
Great. Do you have anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Well, I'd have to say that, it isn't an issue for me that you and a fellow, one of your coworkers both work for the same agency. And I think because you work for a government agency, you are required to attend public meetings. You are required to, you're under the same rules that we are. I think that when you're you're under scrutiny every single day, and you know what the rules are, and you know what the guidelines are. And also, I'd like to point out that even if you did have a conversation, as long as you didn't talk to another person on the Planning Commission, it's not a violation of the meeting rules. If the two of you did happen to have a conversation, which I always find myself, I stay away from the line. I don't try to get all intimate, get all up in the line. I try to stay as far away from it as I possibly can. But even if you did have a conversation, it's not a violation. It's only if you have a conversation with, one of you has a conversation with a third member, then it's a daisy chain meeting and it's a violation of the Brown Act. So, and if there were a perception issue, I'd have to say, it's my job as an elected official to educate the public and say, well, here's what the law really says, and this is what, this is the conduct we are supposed to keep with. So I don't have an issue with that. So I think that, your experience professionally and how you conduct yourselves at meetings at Sonoma Clean Power, Erica was the person that we were all receiving emails from regarding the PSPS alerts, the level of responsibility that you have. I just think that you're just such a model employee. That's that kind of professionalism and level-headedness and that impressed me, and want you to serve on the Planning Commission if you've got a hankering for getting back into planning and land use issues. So it's something that I completely understand. So that's why, I recommended Erica and hope that we're going to, seat you tonight. So it'd be great. So thank you so much for coming in. And I know how hard you work at Sonoma Clean Power for the public good, and then to, again, be a public employee who wants to come back and go to a public meeting, that's admirable. I really appreciate it. So thank you to all of our applicants tonight for coming out. Thank you. All right.
I think this is the most interest we've had. Now, I'm curious as to how we're going to do this vote.
Well, I
One
was
at a
going to
time,
open it up
or-
to public comment
But we still
first.
have more.
Well, we still have to bring it up, so these are my 3 recommendations that are on the agenda. And I was going to open it up for public comment at this time.
Sure.
All right, great. So if anyone would like to come forward and comment on this item, I would invite you to do so. You have 3 minutes. Crickets. Okay. All right, we'll bring it back to the council then for deliberation. So
Well-
I'll start with to my right. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Well, you know, Madam Mayor, I have to tell you, I'm highly disappointed that you didn't see fit to, well, first of all, I'd like to thank all the applicants for submitting their application. Mayor Bagby is absolutely right. It's difficult whether you work in the public sector or the private sector to come home at night and get up on a dais and take a tongue lashing. You know, it takes a lot of guts to do that. But I'm truly disappointed that Commissioner Cox, former Mayor Cox, former City Council Member Cox, was not reappointed to his seat. You know, I understand that you interviewed him. When I asked Mayor Cox if he wanted to retain his seat, he said yes, but he understands, and I said no buts, either yes or no, and he said yes. And I have to tell you, I would hate to lose that corporate knowledge. Mike Shanahan, the current chair, is currently the only member on that planning commission that has any memory whatsoever. So I'm disappointed, and I'm going to lobby this evening to have Mr. Cox reseated for his 4-year term on that planning commission. And I'm quite happy with Eric, a former city employee. I'm happy with Sandra. Erica, I'm sorry I can't support your nomination this evening. I would much prefer to see you replaced by Commissioner Cox.
Actually, is staff writing that down, so we might get to the point where we'll probably have to take it on a case-by-case basis then. All right. So, well, actually, I'll go back to you. I'm sorry, I should have gone to you first after that. So do you want, after the closing public comments? I think it was your turn.
No, that's all right. Actually, I was going to bring up exactly what Gus did. My biggest disappointment in this was that Bob was not going to be reseated for another 4 years, because quite honestly, I can't remember anybody on Planning Commission that works harder than he does. I see him all over the community. I think it's a real slap in the face, and I was very disappointed in the choice you made. If we want to take it one at a time, then I would like to see Bob go in and continue for another 4 years in his seat.
Okay, great. Are you keeping track of that, staff? You have it?
Staff is keeping track of that. Councilmember Brigham, if I can ask what your other recommendations are, that might help frame.
Oh, you want to do that?
Yeah.
We aren't taking them one at a time, then we're going to take it as a group?
Sorry, we'll just, why don't you
Okay.
just do, or you take it one at a time for you and do your recommendation.
Okay, I want Bob to have the 4-year seat, the one where he just continues for another 4 years. Eric, I think you'd be great to see you back here. And you can take some of the heat that we all do. So, on the other two, it would be a toss-up for me, both equally as qualified. I do like the fact that that you're bilingual. That really does make a big difference to me. So those would be the order that I would take it. So you'd become the alternate.
I would go, well, first of all, I definitely thank all for applying. And I also see that this time around, we had a good number of applicants for the Planning Commission, which is something we had not seen in the past. When it comes to corporate memory. It's very commendable. However, that's why we have minutes and records. We still have to find out how committed other people are. And I think Bob has served Cloverdale very well. But I think it's time to give opportunity some new members of the community to also be engaged. And that's why I would recommend Sandra, Erica, and Eric to the commission.
Okay, I think we need to indicate the seats that you would.
Well, you mentioned Sandra for 2023, Eric for 2020, and Erica for 2021 as an alternate.
Okay. Do we have that recorded? Okay.
I have a question about those numbers. I mean, 2023, 2020, and 2021.
Yeah, that's the, do you want to address that, Kevin?
That's when their term ends.
Yeah.
Certainly, yeah, the spot for Eric would be taking over for someone whose term ended next June 30th.
Okay.
So that's why that one's so short. And then for Erica, the proposal would be an alternate. Those are 2 years. And then Sandra is the 4-year, which was Commissioner Cox's spot,
Yeah, the vacancy.
filling a vacancy.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to.
Erica.
Thank you. So after seeing the candidates come forward and looking at the brain trust that they bring, they all have a combination of real estate engineering and construction experience. And I think that as we're moving forward, re-examining the downtown plan, the transit-oriented development, the annexations that we're concerning, I think that hands-on practical experience is something that we really need to see on the commission. So I'm going to stick with my recommendations for Sandra for the 4-year term, Eric for the 1 or 2 year term, and then Erica as the alternate. So can you tell us how that shakes things out?
Sure, just to catalog the totals for each of the 4 proposed members for Planning Commission. There's 4 council members who've indicated support for Sandy. There are 4 votes in support of Eric. There are also 4 votes, there are 2 votes in favor of Erica, and there are 2 votes in favor of Bob Cox.
Okay.
What-
Go ahead.
If I can ask a question, if this city council member decided not to vote for anyone presented this evening, I'm just not sure if we should wait until council member Turner has an opportunity to weigh in on this, or if we should proceed with the vote the way it is now.
I would say that I will not vote either tonight.
Okay.
So you'll vote no as opposed to abstain?
I'm going to vote no to all of them.
Okay. Well, he's also on maternity leave and is probably not going to be at our next council meeting.
And then it'll have to just be
Wait.
carried over.
All right, so we'll carry it over until the first council meeting, or is that the second council meeting in November, or the first council meeting in December?
We can certainly carry it over until Councilmember Turner indicates his return. I know he did share with me that he was hoping that the council would take that matter up without him, because he felt it was important to
Yeah, that's
get a
actually,
full commission seated.
he indicated that to me as well, so, yeah.
But that was, again, just his comment. He didn't express, any particular recommendations on who he saw should be seated, but he was hoping that in the absence, the council would take up the vote tonight. So I just want to make sure, on behalf of Councilmember Turner, that I pass that on to you. But
Yeah.
it's
So
certainly, he's not here tonight.
Knowing that he felt comfortable, are you still saying that you
He
don't?
felt comfortable with what?
He felt comfortable with us making this decision with the information that we had. He wanted, because he felt that it was important and he wanted this to move forward. So
What?
you're still comfortable waiting for him, even though he was comfortable with us making the decision that needs to be made.
I'm very comfortable.
Okay, okay.
I'm comfortable too, because it's quite obvious we're going to wind up in a non-decision on that third seat, and we may as well just wait for them all.
Well, it is an alternate seat, and,
Doesn't matter.
okay.
We
all right.
both stated where we're at, and that's.
All right, well, then
that's
we
it.
will move this, we will table this to another evening.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
But I would like to thank everyone for coming. It's just the process, I'm sorry.
Thank you, everyone, for
Thank
wanting
you.
to come and serve your communities and taking the time to come out. We'll continue this to the next meeting, and just watch for our agendas, or we'll let you know when we will be capable of making a decision on our own without Jason's parental oversight. So, okay, well, we will then move on to subcommittee items. I don't believe, seeing none, we will move on to subcommittee reports. Airport, our next meeting is February 4th, and Finance Administration is going to be tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m. And it's planning, who has planning and community development?
That's
That's it.
Jason and I.
Okay.
And he just reported on the discussions that took place in the last, and the next one will take place as scheduled.
Great.
And in terms of the school subcommittee, we're still working on a mutual meeting with city council.
Did we get that, did we get that date scheduled for that joint meeting?
Staff is
Might be some late-breaking news. So.
is coordinating with staff at the Cloverdale Unified School District on establishing a joint workshop prior to your regular city council meeting. The first meeting in November, that would be November 13th. The staff at the Cloverdale Unified School District was just confirming that they would have a quorum for that date. They have confirmed that if they do have a quorum, that the meeting would be held here. We were originally targeting starting a meeting at 4 o'clock, and that was based in part on trying to address Councilmember Turner's scheduling needs, and he has since indicated that he will likely be unable to attend, so we might be able to start as early as 3:30, which would give us, I think, a solid 2 hours before the start of the regular council meeting. I think we will also plan to serve, if we can confirm that meeting and firm up an agenda, the plan would be to hold a joint workshop between the full board and the full council to address a number of important policy topics that are germane to both council and board, and we might look at it as an opportunity to collaborate on some of those issues. And staff may bring some light refreshments also to make the event, make a workshop a little more enjoyable.
Oh, carb friendly. It'll be a carb friendly event, right?
Sugary.
Do you have the meal?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. David, you and I have spoken about this before, being on the school subcommittee. I hope I have the support of my fellow council members that I really want to see the full board of the school district at this meeting, as opposed to just 2 representatives, because this is a policy decision type meeting, and I don't want to have to send a messenger back to the school board to tell what we're looking to accomplish. It'd be much easier if they were all present and we can all vote at once.
Absolutely.
Well, I was going to ask, what does a quorum mean in terms of the school board? Because, again, I don't want a 2-member meeting.
Right. I think my understanding is that they're a 5-member board, and so quorum would constitute at least 3 members. But my sense was that they're trying to address whether all 5 members would be available. But hopefully, even if all 5 aren't available, but they have a quorum, we can proceed with the joint workshop. The hope is that this can be maybe an annual or a biannual practice. I think it's good practice to meet with your fellow elected officials. And on joint planning issues, we have a strong relationship with the school district, and this is an opportunity to discuss some really, I think, significant policy matters.
Great, so that's the school board. Any news from the fire district?
No news from the fire district.
No news, all right. Council reports. I've submitted mine in writing. Anybody else have
I'm
interest-
submitting mine later on.
an interest in community transparency? Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I have one, thank you. I wasn't sure if you wanted it here or if you wanted it under just communication.
Let's go.
And this came from Robert over at the branch manager at the Cloverdale Regional Library, that the Cloverdale Regional Library has been accepted as one of 20 libraries located in California to participate in the Community Conversations with Veterans program. We had one of those a few months ago, and now it's going to be on a continuous basis at this library. So if you're a veteran and you want to come and talk about veteran affairs and meet with other fellow vets, the library will be the place to do it. And I'll make sure that it's announced at the next meeting when we're going to be having it. Thank you.
Any other activities or meetings you wanted to talk about? Okay, great. Legislative report. Nothing went on this past year, right?
So, and I sent an email to the council, and I've provided staff a summary, and could definitely make it public for anybody that would like it. Obviously, the governor signed over 20 bills related to housing. Housing's a big issue, as you saw your urgency ordinance tonight, dealing with what? Housing, and the lack thereof, especially affordable housing. So I did provide the council. Council has a summary of some of the most important bills, and they're split up between, ADUs. There's also homeless issues. But I went ahead and I provided the council just kind of a split of a summary of those laws, and again, available to the public if they would like it as well.
Great, thank you. All right. City manager, city attorney reports.
Mayor, council members, I'd like to share with the council that we have formalized the agenda for the Homelessness Community Advisory Group that has been sent out to all members of the CAG, as we refer to it. A meeting has been set for this coming Tuesday at the fire district at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock was set because I know that's a meeting time that I think a number of the community advisory group members can attend. But I know there is some interest amongst community members to maybe consider an alternative time. But that certainly can be discussed at the first meeting. What are potential meeting dates and times. Included with the first agenda for the meeting is a template and outline for really what would be the 5 following meetings. I think when we presented the outline for the plan for council, we originally were thinking that we might be able to accomplish bringing forward a draft strategic plan, after 3 meetings, and we realized that it's a pretty significant issue. And may take more time and dialogue than 3 meetings. And we tried to, however, keep understanding that the council, wants us to make progress on putting together a plan. We outlined it, a 6-meeting framework to get through the existing plan, hopefully, or existing framework to be able to develop a plan. So hopefully, if we stay on task, we'll be able to accomplish that. And as a reminder, your 2 appointments to the Community Advisory Group were Vice Mayor Walter and Councilmember Brigham, with Councilmember Cruz serving as an alternate to that committee. So that agenda was sent out by your Assistant City Manager today. So we will look forward to having that meeting next Tuesday.
Is it Friday? Is it Friday or? The Healdsburg one, okay. And we actually, do you want to just go ahead and announce that? You remember it better than I do.
Yeah.
Just so the public is aware.
Well, we also have the District 4 Homeless Task Force meeting this coming Friday. I believe it's
At 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock at Hillsburg City Hall.
Yeah, it's coming back
So,
to me.
Yeah, and that looks pretty good. I had a chance to look at the agenda, and it's actually a work plan, identifying the causes, coming up with some solutions, and going forward. So,
Can you forward me that, Gus?
I'm
All
sorry?
that? Can you forward me everything you get from there?
I will. Yes, thank you.
Council direction on future agenda items. I have something I want to bring up. Anybody else have anything you want to bring up? Well, just after the discussion about Recycle Town, David, I'm not even going to ask you where we are on formulating the legislative agenda, because I think I know where that's been, and I know what the reason is. But it just reminds me that we need to probably get back on that and bring that back to the council so that we have clear direction, so that we can, move on some of the timely bills and some of the timely issues. And we don't have to wait for a meeting necessarily to shoot a letter off, so.
Absolutely. That's certainly been on my work plan to develop some legislative guidelines to bring back to council so that, as council is aware, often our legislative position on various matters are sought very quickly and need to go out, sometimes with less than 48 hours notice. Obviously, if we need to schedule and bring that forward to council, that can take several weeks. So if we can develop broad general policy guidelines for your perspectives on general legislation, that'll give us authority to draft, support or opposition to bills that, you've already indicated your pre-support or opposition to. And so it'd be ideal to be able to bring that forward to council so that you give staff direction in advance.
Of particular timely interest might be the power shutoffs and what our position would be legislatively. We do a lot through Sonoma Clean Power, through that board, dealing with several issues involving localizing, or bringing our energy dollars back into Sonoma County and Mendocino County where the JPA is, but also issues as far as solar power load smoothing, localization of power, new technologies, things like that. We do a lot already through Sonoma Clean Power, but it's probably helpful at this time, since this is such a timely issue, that people in Cloverdale just be aware that that's a main vehicle for it, but also kind of form our legislative platform around some of those values and goals that the board, for example, that the Sonoma Clean Power Board is already pursuing, just so that the council is more aware and our citizens are more aware that we are taking action on those concerns through Sonoma Clean Power, but we could probably do a lot more through our legislative platform, through the council as well. And in addition to that, just so that I'm saying this out loud, so that we remember, is making sure that we also incorporate and review the Sonoma County mayors and council members legislative platform, because that is going, the platform itself and the mechanism by which we manage it is undergoing some changes, and we just need to make sure that we're folding that into our process. And I think that's about it. Okay.
Mayor and Council, I did have one other announcement to make. At a special meeting of the council last Tuesday, the council did ratify a proclamation declaring a local emergency. The language within that proclamation does carry forward for, I think, 60 days. And we are, as of today, portions of Cloverdale are experiencing a public safety power shutoff. I know we have staff probably at this very moment up at our Shahan lift station, addressing the needs there because of the lack of power. But we'll continue to monitor the PSPS, as we refer to it in acronym. That Chief Ferguson's been leading up the effort on the operational area calls and tracking city progress. We were lucky enough to be able to coordinate establishment of a community resource center at the Citrus Fair, which should be operational tomorrow by 8 a.m. I'm going to hopefully be able to break away from my desk and go over and take a look. I encourage all of you and the members of the community who want to take a look at what resources are offered there to give it a visit, because it's something I think we are going to continue to experience more of. And just advance notice that one of the things we're currently tracking is that this dry weather system and high winds may, while they may subside the next 24 to 48 hours, are expected to come back later this weekend. So we may be in another PSPS event. So staff will be, tracking that obviously closely and doing our best to keep the council and the community informed on the extent of that, the impacts of that PSPS. It's, the community should know that, unfortunately, we're not provided detailed information by PG&E on exactly where those power outages are going to occur within our city, though we try our best to determine that. But it's something that the community needs to keep aware of so they can be prepared to weather this event as best as they can. And encourage, obviously, to check Facebook and keep tabs on PG&E's website to ascertain if these power outages are going to affect them in their property and their personal residence.
Do you have a question?
Yes, Mr. Kelly, could you give some information about what the Community Resource Center is going to include?
Sure. I haven't seen it specifically, but my understanding is that it's going to offer charging stations for phones and iDevices, because if obviously there's power outage, you're unable to charge those. But also, if there are medical devices, there would be a way to get power to them. I think there's also information shared at those resource centers about how to be prepared, and then just basic resources. I think they have air conditioning tents so that if there is, as we're experiencing kind of warmer weather and air conditioning systems don't work, it's a place to go and get a little retreat from the heat. But otherwise, there's not a lot offered, as my understanding. There's not necessarily food or water resources that may be provided, but it's also could be a source of information for folks who may not have internet or phone or TV because of the power outage to come and get kind of a current update. So really basic level of resources. It's all being provided through PG&E.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. Okay. Well, then, on that note, we'll go ahead and adjourn our meeting till Wednesday, November 13th. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Have a good evening.